But the best in the end is to keep it simple. And I think what I mean by that, keeping it simple, is what's your repeat process, product or service that's actually generating a profit for yourself and generating value for your clients. And once you've identified that, clearly, really simplifying that process. How can you deliver that as simply as possible?
Joining me on the line today, I have Peter Borg. Peter Borg works in a company called Featurepower. Now, I'm going to get him to explain exactly what he does because he's probably going to do a better job. First of all, welcome to the call, Pete.
Yeah, thanks very much, David. It's great to speak with you. So Featurepower, we've been going for 5 years. We're a business that helps our clients to realise the benefits that were promised from the software products that they chose.
Right.
So we work with a small number of products that we've got deep expertise in. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the products that we work with have changed over the years as the market has changed.
Yeah. So before we get into the detail, because you've already piqued everyone's curiosity, I'm sure, about exactly what that all means.
Yes.
Maybe let's talk about, like, you run the business yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about what you're doing to navigate the current economy.
Well, this business is an online business. I've been consulting for about 12 years now.
Yeah.
But and that's mainly on-site consulting around Melbourne, doing all sorts of different things with colleagues. Okay. But in 2015, I started this business as an online operation, supporting cloud-based applications. So we were advertising around Australia, and we were delivering our services via screen share.
Okay.
Zoom. In fact, using Google Hangouts and Skype in those days, and eventually onto Zoom. So we've got clients in, Western Australia and regional New South Wales and all over the place. Okay. A lot of Melbourne and Sydney, as it turns out.
So not a lot of change in the way that you operate the business.
No, well, one of the biggest changes is these days everyone is so familiar with Zoom. Everyone wants to see your face. So I was quite happy we were operating
just on the phone.
Audio, that's right, and audio, and then when we got down to business, we would do screen share.
Yeah.
And so it's like sitting down in front of a computer together.
Yeah, understand.
But now there's an expectation. Everyone does Zoom, and no one's embarrassed about being in their front room or the kitchen,
or wearing pajamas under the table, all that sort of stuff.
That's right.
So tell me a bit about what opportunities you see in the market right now.
Well, people have obviously had to change the way that they operate in ways that actually we're very deeply involved with. And that is getting their data and business processes online to a greater extent than they had before.
Yep. So
when you can't lean over and talk to someone, it's quite different it's obviously quite a different situation. So even though many of the larger businesses have, business systems in place, you'll find, and I think people realise that there's a whole lot of little bits and pieces in between those systems. There's a lot that falls in between the cracks, and they might have spreadsheets or shared file servers and things like that, and a lot of very ad hoc processes.
Yep.
So we're talking to businesses that are now, finally getting those organised and using products that support those processes better.
Yep.
Or businesses that are online retail type businesses that are also taking the opportunity to get themselves better placed for scaling up. Because even a lot of those online businesses we find, or the ones that are talking to us, they might have a beautiful online shop, but you don't realise that in the background they're actually grabbing their orders and downloading them into a CSV and breaking them, cutting them, pasting them into dispatches and things like that. So,
as the world gets more sort of online, there's a lot more of this middleware sort of trying to make two things work together type thing happening, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, there's fantastic. There's a real. I've seen it just since 2015,
Yeah.
the change is quite dramatic even since then. There's lots and lots of fantastic products, like single purpose products, whether it's your shop front or your CRM or servicing products, dispatch, all sorts of things. But the challenge and the work is in putting all those together.
Yeah, the integration.
And people, yeah, sorry?
Just the integration of it all.
Exactly right. People feel, the market is mature, right? So people say, look, I expect there's a product, I need to do this thing. And like dispatch and routing, I've got a few drivers on the road and I want an algorithm to optimize the routes that they're taking to drop off our product.
Right.
And, people, you wouldn't think are so tech savvy. They just expect, there must be a product to do that.
Yeah.
And they'll find a product, they'll be able to load it up with their data. But they sort of get so far and then they find, oh, well, this needs to talk better to my, my online shop.
Yeah.
Or I've got customers, the same customers coming back and I'm not relating new orders to the old customers, basic stuff like that.
Okay.
There's lots of opportunities on the integration.
Yeah. So tell me, in terms of your business, what are the priorities for you right now?
Well, this year, of course, in the current situation, it was just staying viable at first.
Yep.
But after an initial sort of, bit of anxiety around March, it turned out that there wasn't a huge impact on the business. So the priority is really continuing to be available for business development. There's a little bit more tire kicking on the inquiries. I think people had more time on their hands to look into things, which is not a bad thing. But the priority has been to to make sure we keep responding to those inquiries and convert as many of those as we can.
Fine. Yeah, it sounds interesting. Tell me personal lessons. So this whole event has affected different people in different ways. What have you taken away from this whole COVID thing?
Well, I think it's there's nothing too earth-shattering about this. I think we've heard this all over the place, but you can feel. I mean, you even feel a little bit guilty sometimes because I know some people are really struggling. I mean, employees who have just lost their work, or people in hospitality, etc. So there's a lot of people that are doing it hard.
Yeah.
But I must say I've quite enjoyed the quieter life over the last few months.
You are not the first person to say that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I'm not. I mean, I've heard it everywhere, and it's a fact. I've got my whole family here in the house. Yeah. Which is cramping my style a little bit. Yeah. But on the other hand, it's really quite special. Yeah. And life, the pace of life is a little bit slower. And also in business, the expectations and the relationships with clients are very good as well. Yeah. People are not so stressed and hardcore and demanding. Must be this, must be by this time. People are just saying, look, what can we do? What can we achieve? And they're more collaborative, working to a solution. So
it's almost like the correction we need to have, right? We needed to have. Well,
I can't help thinking that a lot of good will come out of it. Yeah. People, you get stuck in this goal setting, year on year, must do better than last year. And sometimes exactly why is not, you don't really stop to think about exactly why. So it is refreshing to think, okay, well, how can I keep this running? What do I need to change to keep it running? Yeah. What are the best parts that I need to keep? What can I jettison of my work? So it's not bad.
Great. So tell me the best piece of business advice you've ever received.
Well, I've received lots and lots of business advice and given a bit myself. Yeah. And I think after all, I'm in a network of consultants. Often we refer to each other quite a bit in the network of consulting professionals. Yeah. But the best in the end is to keep it simple. Mm. And I think what I mean by that, keeping it simple, is what's your repeat process, product or service that's actually generating a profit for yourself and generating business, generating value for your clients.
Yeah.
And once you've identified that, clearly, really simplifying that process. How can you deliver that as simply as possible to get the maximum value for your client at a good return for yourself?
It sounds obvious, but I suppose this is a time for pausing for a lot of people in business, and that's a pretty powerful question to be asking: is what do I jettison, and what do I keep, and then how do I streamline and how do I automate or systemize what I'm doing so that I can just rinse and repeat?
Yeah. That's true. That's true. You can spend a lot of time trying things or dreaming up new things, and leaving some of your old things half done or undone.
Yeah.
So it's a message for the current times, but it's also actually what my latest business is about. It's really about simple processes that work, and so I don't know. Is it the best business advice I've heard? It's the one I'm applying in this in the offering I've got now, which is really enjoyable.
But I think people need that reminder sometimes, because I've often seen these people get in the way of their success. They complicate things that are simple.
They
make things like, for some reason, they want to make it super difficult for themselves rather than just letting things happen.
Yeah. Well, it's a temperament thing as well. I mean, some people prefer shiny new ideas than actually following through on things as well. So,
I suppose a bit of the sort of ego gets involved, and look how smart I am, as opposed to just doing the same old boring thing.
Yeah. Well, they're all challenges, The business has got a lot to do with your personality. It's not.
Peter, next question: your favourite book?
Well, I'm a massive reader, and I don't read business books.
Okay.
So I love reading historical books and political history, that sort of thing. But one business book I can talk about, which crosses over, is one by a guy called David Graeber, and it's called Debt: The First 5,000 Years. And David Graeber is an anthropologist and a historian. And I actually didn't realise until I finished the book that he's actually a rabid lefty as well. He's a big... I've come across him on Twitter. He's a mad Jeremy Corbyn supporter. So I'm amazed that I got through the whole book without picking that up. But it just talks about the basic interactions, the meaning of currency, and systems of debt and cash economies. Right. And it just blew my mind. The stories from history all the way back to classical history through slavery, and the meaning of that transaction. I won't try to explain.
I was going to say, can you summarise it in one sentence?
Well, it turns out I probably didn't understand a great deal of it, given that I didn't even know where he was coming from.
Yeah.
Or his background. But it's a great book. I'd recommend it to anyone who's interested in
the history of the economy, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell me something. The number one piece of advice you'd give to a business owner right now.
Well, I think all previous assumptions have been thrown out. I think number one piece of advice would be to redo your plans over the next, not just the next 6 months, as we talk about the current situation, but the next 18 months to 2 years. Redo your plans, throwing out all previous assumptions, and in particular, looking at how the business is going to regrow once the economy is running normally again.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement, because being in the business coaching world, we're all about planning.
Yes.
And people keep asking me about, I've had a business plan. I had one when I started, or I had one when I went to the bank for money. And I suggest to them that a business plan should be an active, living, breathing document, and it needs to be adjusted a bit like the GPS in your car. You put a destination and it creates a plan. You don't take the turn it tells you. It has to write a new plan.
Yes, that's right. Recharting your course. Yeah. But that's, and now is more than ever, because I think people can get away with plans that aren't really very well thought through. They're just a bit of a tweak on last year's plan.
Well, they could.
But something that I found very interesting with one of my own colleagues, who's more into finance than I am, is that he was pointing out that the real cash flow danger period is not so much through the the 6 months, which we're now about 3 months into, that everyone is identified, but in the period after that, because you can find with reduced activity, your cash flow is not too bad during this bad period. But it's when you get back to growth again that you'll find that the working capital that you weren't building up, or that you've spent to survive in this period, that's when you're finding you're missing it. So I'm not giving you financial advice there, David, but that's it's one of those things that's not that intuitive to people that aren't financially minded. And
no, I mean, there's two issues, because there's that one, and I suppose with the JobKeeper, that sort of runs out in September.
Yes, yeah.
It's a bit like putting everyone on a drug of addiction, giving them all this money, and really just deferring the problem.
Yes.
On the track. So even already the building industry is starting to sense there's going to be a big hole in September.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a massive increase in unemployment in September.
Yeah.
Added another string to the bow.
Yeah.
For all those people, there's an old saying I used to use a lot: is growth sucks cash. Right? You try and restart the flywheel, and you have to put a lot of energy in. So for a lot of people in business, they're going to need the capital to rebuild.
Yeah, growth sucks cash. Yeah.
So it's an interesting observation, and I think you're right. There's a lot of people that aren't seeing that coming. For other people, it's opportunity, because during that time, there's going to be a lot of businesses that are going to have fire sales to just go into liquidation, which is sort of tragic in a way, but it's also a culling in a way.
Yeah, that's right. So it certainly isn't business as usual, and your regular plans aren't going to cut it.
No, very good. All right, Peter, very conscious of time and very grateful for the time we spent together. Thank you for your input.
Yeah, no trouble. Great to talk with you, David.
All right, cheers.